if you are someone who is wanting to buy a house sometime soon, or maybe you're somebody who's been writing offer after offer and you're, currently in the market trying to get an offer accepted. I know there's a lot of people, unfortunately, in that situation right now. Our hope is that today's show will help you not only beat the discouragement that can come from being a first-time buyer, or to be honest, any type of home buyer just in general in today's market, but hopefully this helps you beat a little bit of that discouragement and helps you come into the process a little bit more prepared to help things go as smoothly as they possibly can from the get-go. We have 3 tips, 3 things we think you're going to want to know before buying a house. And at the very, very end, we have a extremely important tip of the week that you're going to want to know about if you are a first-time home buyer, so be sure to listen until the end.
And right now, I feel like being a home buyer, because we're right there too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you and I talk about it so much because every time a new listing comes on, our hearts get racing. Is this the one? Is this the one? And then you finally book the showing and you step in the home and you build it up in your mind, right?
Like, you try to be as optimistic about it as possible and just, have an open mind.
and sometimes things don't work out, but then other times things do work out when you get that accepted offer, or the home's just completely not what you expected. So you just walk and move on. So you also have to have that thing, that voice in your heart just saying, this isn't the one for me. This isn't the one for my family. But also you have to be comfortable not to overextend yourself in markets like this, because there, as Americans especially, we got to separate wants from needs. And really be, I guess, smart with our home buying power in a sense. Because good. Don't let us forget though that you as the buyer hold the power to this market. This market does not survive, does not thrive without you being in it. So if we're just hunkered down in our homes, content, renting, or living somewhere else in the meantime with somebody else, markets do not exist without you as a buyer, because you have all the power. You are the money holder. You guys work with the lending institutions. So don't let that become unvaluable for you to feel like you have a voice or can negotiate. And that's our goal, bringing that to all of our clients, sellers and buyers, but we're talking about buyers specifically today. So one thing I do want you guys to take away from this is you do have power. You do have the right to buy a house, and you shouldn't be stuck in your current situation forever. There's always gonna be a time and a place for you to get your right home, your dream home. And sometimes it's that starter home for the first time home buyers, and we've all been there.
Right.
But that's what makes it so fun. And
I like that. That's really good. So first off, this isn't one of the 3 things we were going to share, but just something I want to throw out there that I think would be helpful to know before you get into the process, because this is something that can happen and really discourage a buyer. I don't know if you've been seeing a lot of this, Spencer, but I know something that I've been seeing a lot of is, say a listing says all offers due by, say it's listed on Friday and they say all offers due by Monday. A lot of times that doesn't unfortunately mean anything. I know exactly
where you're going.
I just had this happen not too long ago for a buyer where we had a showing scheduled for Sunday to look at the home. They said all offers due by Monday at 5 p.m. We're not looking at any offers until then. And then Saturday, an offer comes in that's too great to pass up, and they accept it and don't even tell anyone that had the showing scheduled for Sunday. So you're just left in the dark. You don't even get a warning. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. And I was just hearing another agent talking about that, seeing that same thing happen this morning. So that's why I wanted to bring that up. Yeah.
And in markets like this, things happen. Sometimes agents, they are told one thing when they list the home. Yeah, we want the home to be on market for 7 days at minimal. But then the one offer comes in that the seller maybe heard of by the seller's agent, and they're like, you know what, let's just accept that one and forget about everybody else and send out the rejection letters. But that does happen.
It does.
And you as the buyer's agent, don't let it be like, that's not your fault, or that is your fault. You were in the dark. The seller's agent told you the time frame.
It's not supposed to happen.
It's not supposed to happen.
Yeah, it's not supposed to happen.
And so remember, clients, when we are looking for a home, sometimes there's just some things out of your control.
Yeah.
That you can't change, and it's just, it happens.
But I will say one piece of advice to try to avoid that if you're a buyer is that, I mean, this is always true in real estate, but now more than ever in this market is that time is of the essence. So if you see a home and you like it and you want to go home and sleep on it, you don't really have time to do that anymore. If you really want it, if it's not that big of a deal. If someone else buys it, then do whatever. But if you really want that home, you don't really have time to wait to write the offer.
That's true.
That was just a little tidbit first. But so number one, just jumping right into our 3 things you're going to want to know before getting into home buying is really narrow down your criteria before you start looking. So for example, if you know you don't want to buy a house with a small yard, take a look at the lot size online of, the listing before even setting up a showing for it. And if it's just realistically going to be too small of a lot size to possibly have a decent sized yard, and if that's something that's important to you, then save yourself the time and find that out ahead of time. I know when we first started looking, we're just kind of seeing everything, and we wasted so much time looking at homes that weren't even really options. And what we should have done was just taking a look at the lot size, if because that's something that we're kind of being picky on. So just look at the lot size ahead of time, and if it doesn't have that certain criteria, then don't bother to look at it and waste your time. And maybe for you, that's a certain amount of a certain car garage or a kitchen size or something like that. But if there's something that's a deal breaker for you, figure those things out up front so you don't waste as much time.
You want to tell the agent as they're looking around, right?
Yes, you're definitely going to want to tell your agent that so they can, hopefully they'll be filtering that through for you.
Set your boundaries and criterias and vocalize them. Send them in writing to whoever your representing agent is to handle your buyer's transaction, because that is what's going to find you that property for you quicker, and most likely making you less frustrated going around searching for 10 plus properties before you even submit an offer on one of them. Because
as a home buyer, I think a lot of home buyers that don't really realize in this market, it's going to be time consuming, especially if you're not doing this, could take up a lot of time potentially. Our next thing that you're going to want to know before buying a house, this one kind of contradicts our last tip. But just because you don't like a house based off of the photos, if it fits your criteria on paper, if it seems to have the things that you're looking for, don't rule it out. It's worth taking a look at because you might actually change your mind when you get there. Although usually what we see is the listing photos look way better than the home looks in person, and you get there and you're like super disappointed because it does not look that good.
Is it photoshopped or something?
Well, I wouldn't say photoshopped, but just you don't really notice the little nooks and the flaws as well with the professional photography usually, but it's sometimes the opposite happens. I know when we bought our last house, just based off the listing photos, we didn't like it at all. We didn't even really want to go look at it. And then for some reason we did, and we got there, and in the listing photos, it had so much stuff. And then when we got there, it was actually vacant, and it looked way better. It looked way different than the photos. Surprisingly, it looked better that time, and we really loved it. So sometimes you just never know. So if it fits that criteria on paper, what you're looking for, then maybe it's worth taking a look at, even if the photos don't get you too excited.
That's valuable though, and I think that's how like our brains are triggered too, with like how social media is and stuff. Like Instagram, it's only photos, so we only want to post the most perfect photo you can, maybe of yourself or what you're doing that day, to just show outwardly how beautiful this looks. And sometimes houses, that's not the case. They sometimes look even worse than they do, like our experience with our previous purchase. But if it fits that criteria, then it's worth going to take a look at. And criteria is everything, because side of town, if you know it's on a side of town you don't want to live in, why would you go look at it, right? So if you have that ballpark, that generic idea of what you're looking for, yard, square footage, mounts of bedrooms, that type of stuff, sometimes things can be changed through alterations,
Definitely.
remodels. And that's where a lot of people are at right now, because pickings are slim. We're under a month's worth of inventory. I was just talking to my client about that right before the show, about the sale values and why sellers are able to get where they're at right now and why things are selling in the amount of time they're selling in. It's unbelievable what type of market we're in. And this is on both sides, buyers and sellers.
Right.
So.
That's good. And another quick tip to throw in there to go along with that is if you are having a hard time imagining what a home could look like, I know it's really hard for me sometimes going into maybe an older home or a home you don't like the layout of, or just that needs a lot of remodeling. It can be difficult to imagine it as it could be, but a little changes can make a huge difference. So if you're having a hard time imagining that, just go on Pinterest and look up home remodel before and after, and then you'll probably be able to, it'll expand your mind a little and you'll be able to see what it could be a little, because
that's why
little differences can make a huge difference. So just do some Pinterest searching before and after.
The optimism Mariah shows and has, anything on Pinterest, you can make your reality. But it's true. You got to show optimism when looking into older homes, especially layouts. The key is it functional for you and your family? I always tell my clients, let's forget about price just for a second. Okay. Let's not even look at the price tag. Do you see yourself living here? Are you happy here? Is it safe for you and your situation, your family? And then we can step in and move forward and talk more money, financial breakdown of what it's going to take cost-wise to get this up to speed, or buy it as is because you love it the way it looks.
And not everyone, of course, is working with a budget to be able to do remodel. But if you are, then it definitely helps to try to see things as they could be. The
American standard. I want it and I want it now.
Yeah.
Sometimes, we can do little things at a time.
But even small, like I said, very small and expensive things, just new coat of paint, you'd be surprised at a difference that small things can make. And
what's amazing when you watch some of these remodeling shows on TV, a lot of times they'll say, I'm not going to do much with this room. I'm just going to change the curtains. I'm going to put some different paint on, change the color a little bit. And they don't spend a lot of money, but all of a sudden it's like, what happened?
Absolutely. Even not remodeling aside, just imagining the home take a second to imagine the home with your style, your furniture, what you would do to the room, because I've seen some homes that are nothing special but were staged, and they got so many more offers than they should have because you could totally see the vision because this furniture was super cute. So it does make a difference.
And when it comes to writing offers, in not understanding or knowing in the future, we can figure that out through escrow. And that's why I say in the showing, are you going to be happy here? Do you see yourself living here? Is it functional for you?
Do you want to be there in that home, or is it a home that you walk in and you're like, all right, I want to leave?
Right, because then the next priority, let's get you under contract with something. And then we can figure out through the inspection period and escrow process your design and get a professional in there that's really going to give you that real visual of your of your end result that you're wanting for that property.
Our last tip is not to get your heart set on any one home until you know for sure your offer is accepted. I know as an agent, something I'm constantly asked by both home sellers and home buyers is it a done deal now? Is it a done deal now? Are we good now? Like, is it sold now, or is it ours now? Or, is the buyer buying it officially now? And everyone wants to know that after the offer is accepted, and then after the inspection's over, they want to know that, and they just want to know that like it's for sure. But unfortunately, I like to think on the optimistic side, and I'd like to expect everything to go smoothly in the transaction and expect that if they don't, we can work it out. But unfortunately in real estate, it's never really a done deal until it's officially a done deal and you have the keys. So try not to get your heart too set on one property. I know I've had a lot of buyers who have been really discouraged when their offer didn't get accepted because they already had Pinterest boards made of what the remodeling they were going to do to that house, or the things they were going to do to it and with it, and what they wanted to do with the yard. And so just try not to get too emotionally invested.
Which is hard right now because
I know.
Because
I'm guilty of that too.
A lot of it isn't coming down to sale fails due to financing. It's just not being able to even get the accepted offer. because of the competition. But right now we are seeing, less offers being sent. We are seeing a few more price reductions. We are seeing more days on market, which is that just a change of the season? I don't know. Interest rates are still low. But what we do know is inventory, as long as that's staying low, I feel like prices are going to continue to stay where they're at. Maybe not increase, but to level out and make it more affordable for these home buyers. And home buyers, maybe you just take a seat until you can afford something.
And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're not able to buy and you just keep getting outbidded, then maybe it is best to take a little pause and take a little break and revisit it. Before we get into our tip of the week, just a little bit of hopefully something encouraging for if you are somebody who's having all of those, maybe a sale fail or your offer's just not getting accepted and you just keep getting beaten out by overbidding offers. On the flip side of that, if that does happen to you when you're house hunting, don't be discouraged. Even if it looks like there's nothing else you love currently on the market, just something I always tell my clients is to just remind yourself that new homes do pop up all the time. It could be next week that the right home pops up, and just trust the process and trust that if it's not this one you made an offer on, there will be something better for you. I know I have seen this happen so many times with home buyers I've worked with where their offer doesn't get accepted on a home. They're really disappointed about that, and only for them to wait just a little bit longer and be patient, and the right house that's even better for their family ends up popping up. So try not to get discouraged. I know house hunting in 2021 is definitely not for the faint of heart, but just try to keep that perspective when you're looking for a home right now, that if this one doesn't work out, there's something better for your family on the horizon.
And that's really good. It comes down to, I refer this to a old coach that I had. It's an opportunity over obligation. So what opportunities come your way, don't present it to be like an obligation. You have to go look, or you have to do everything right for this opportunity to present itself. Sometimes opportunities are just there, and it's your mindset of optimism for these things to happen and work out for you. So just keep that encouragement rolling. I know we always say this, there's only 1 month of inventory. What does that really mean, though? I was talking to our documentation department just last week. I said, how's our office doing? Just Berkshire Hathaway in Salem, that office. How are we doing with listings? Am I the only one out there? How many other agents are really working? Because sometimes you just feel like you're off in your own world. And they say, we get about, 8 to 12 listings every day. So times that by 7, we only say there's a month, but there's more listings out there than you guys might actually think. What actually holds a month of inventory. So just keep that in mind.
That's good. Okay, so now for the tip of the week. This is something that we've mentioned before in a previous show, but I feel like you can't really talk about anything, especially geared toward first-time home buyers, and not mention this in this market, is be mindful of what loan type you have right now. I have a client that I'm currently working with who has an FHA loan, and in the past, I know for me, this was never an issue getting an offer accepted, in my experience, at least with an FHA loan. But we have been having such a difficult time because it is so competitive, and many of these homes under, say $350 or so are just not in the best condition. So because home buyers, not sellers, are in the begging position right now, we aren't seeing a whole lot of repairs being done for buyers. So this means a seller is much more likely to accept an offer with a conventional loan versus FHA, because conventional is much more lenient as far as what repairs need to be done. Another thing to be aware of, if you're going to be looking at houses that are at or under $300,000 right now in Salem, is that many of them, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like more than half of them are conventional only, or a lot of times they're even cash only because of the condition. They're just not able to be financed. And if they are, they're not accepting offers that are not conventional. So it's a difficult time to get an offer accepted. If you are choosing to have an FHA loan, or even USDA, just be aware of that coming in. It's going to be a lot more competitive. You're going to need to have an even stronger offer. And I think just knowing that up front before you start looking can help make the process smoother. And if there is any way you could get a loan that is, a conventional loan instead, then try as hard as you can to do so right now.
That's good. No, that's really good stuff. What's that tip of the week? Is that the
tip?
That
was the tip.
That was the tip.
That was it.
So is the loan...
That was it. That the loan, just be mindful, the loan does matter right now more than it, in my experience, in real estate ever has.
No, I see that. And us working with a lot of sellers, when we are presenting all these offers, we present everyone fairly, just like you should.
Yeah.
And then ultimately it is the seller's choice. And there's nothing wrong with a federally backed loan, a VA backed loan. Those are terrific loans. But ultimately it is the seller's decision. And what they tend to go with right now is obviously it's going to be cash first position, and then conventional. And right now a lot of people are putting larger amounts down as a down payment. That's because appraisal values, when you start getting into those multiple offer situations, we're going on average over $20,000 over ask price. Well, can the home really appraise?
That's another thing, yeah.
Appraise for that? And so with those higher down payments, it's more likely to. When it comes to lending, it's going to be a lower lending amount. And appraisal values sometimes are even exceeding what people are offering. So if it underappraises, a lot of buyers are putting more money down cash when it closes, just to close at the sales price they offered, which a lot of people are writing that in the offer. So I guess what we're trying to say is be optimistic and let your professional help you too. Help us help you take into consideration what we have to say and guide you in the right direction to get you under contract in extreme, awesome times like this.
Yeah, you are partners, right?
Yeah.
Working together. Well, that's it for this week. Thank you for listening to Mariah and Spenc.